My kid, Jack Benny, a great star, God bless him. Milton Berle, great people. This is wonderful being here at the home. And I say this from my heart. No, it's a joke, it's a joke. It's a joke. Oh, I take it back, I say it. It's a joke. It takes many years to be a great comedian.
It sure does, and you ain't reached that year yet.
The Dean Martin Show. Funniest moments that made the king of cool lose it. The man who never flinched. Picture a man who has seen everything. It's a little after 11 at night, somewhere in Burbank, California. The cigarettes are lit, the ice is melting in the glasses, and the most relaxed man in America is leaning on a podium with a drink in his hand, like he was born holding it. That's Dean Martin. For 10 years, he ran the loosest party on television, and the deal was always the same. Everybody took their shots, everybody got laughed at, and nothing ever rattled the host. Except it did. Because here's the secret about the whole run of that show. The funniest thing on it was never the joke Dean told. It was the moment somebody walked up to that microphone and knocked the cool clean off his face. The man who never flinched, flinching. The king of cool, folding his arms on the desk and laughing so hard he couldn't sit up straight. Tonight I'm going to introduce you to the people who did it. The most famous impressionist in America who looked Dean in the eye and told the whole country what was really in his glass.
Here's a message from President Ford. Now, I'm not too sure how big a fan he is. President Ford. And my fellow Americans.
The heavyweight champion of the world who looked Dean dead in the eye and told him the plain truth.
Everybody's got some type of talent, Cosell. We've made it either being great, or good looks, personality, or connections, or some type of influence, but you are living proof that you don't need nothing to make it.
And a soft-spoken fellow from Iowa holding a toupee, who never told a single joke in his life, and still left Dean face down on that desk.
Well, exactly what is your main complaint?
Well, the main complaint is it doesn't do what you say it's going to do.
Well, that particular model is guaranteed to stay on in a hurricane.
Well, I know it stays on in a hurricane, but see, we're from Iowa, and we really don't get that many hurricanes. See, mainly I want it to stay on when I go down for the cheesecake.
Well, of course, if you wish to exchange it, we'd have to have the price tag.
You're sure you worked with Jerry? Huh?
Yeah. But our stuff wasn't this funny, I'll tell you that.
Now here's my promise to you. The funniest one in the whole bunch is not the one you'd bet your money on. And it lands right in the middle of this story. So don't wander too far from the screen. Pour yourself something. Get comfortable. This is the night the coolest man in the room finally lost it. The room where nobody was safe. Let me set the table for you first, in case you weren't sitting in front of the set when all this aired. The Dean Martin Show and the roasts that grew out of it worked on one simple idea. You take a long table, you call it the dais, and you line it with the biggest names in the country. Movie stars, ball players, comedians, a senator or two. Then you pick one guest of honor, sit them in the middle like a turkey on Thanksgiving, and everybody at that table takes turns carving them up. Friendly, brutal, all in good fun.
Have you ever been in Schenectady?
No, I never was in Schenectady.
Neither was I. Must have been a couple other guys. But I still have a feeling I've seen your face someplace else.
No, it's always been right here. Right on the top of my neck. Maybe you've seen me on television.
Oh, no, I've never been on television.
And the whole thing is held together by Dean, who is having the time of his life, and by the look of him, maybe his fourth drink. That drink is important, so let me say a word about it. Dean built half his act on it. The droopy eyes, the little smile, the way he leaned like the floor was tilting. Now, a lot of folks back then argued about whether he was really 3 sheets to the wind or just playing it for the camera. Doesn't matter. What matters is the effect. The man always looked like he was one good joke away from sliding off his chair. So, when a joke finally came along that actually knocked him off his chair, well, you believed it. You knew it was real. And that's the engine of everything you're about to see. A room full of people whose only job was to make each other laugh in front of a man who was already halfway to the floor. The wonder isn't that Dean broke. The wonder is that he ever kept it together at all. So the rule of the room was simple. Nobody was safe. Not the guest of honor, not the legends at the table, and, as you'll find out, not even the host with the drink in his hand. Especially not him. Let's meet the first man who got him. The man who could be anybody. The next fellow had a gift nobody else at that table could match. He could be anyone. Any voice, any face, any famous man in America. He'd just reach up, adjust something behind his eyes, and become them. His name was Rich Little, and in those years he was the most famous impressionist in the country. They used to say he did so many voices that when he talked in his sleep, his wife applauded.
Our next guest, Rich Little, does so many impressions that when he talks in his sleep, his wife applauds.
Now, most of the folks on that dais walked up and told you jokes in their own voice. Rich Little didn't have to. He had everybody else's. And the first voice he reached for was the most dangerous one he could pick. He turned to Dean, the host, the king of cool, the man with the famous glass welded to his hand, and asked if Dean would like to hear an impression of himself. And then, before Dean could stop him, he did it.
Thank you, Dean. As you know, I do an impression of you. Would you like me to do it so you know what you said? What do you drink anyway? This has got to be a put-on. This has got to be ginger ale.
That's ginger ale. I'm Sammy Davis, Jr.
Except the impression wasn't really about the voice at all. It was about the drink. Because Rich Little leaned over, took a good long look at whatever was sitting in Dean's glass, and told the whole country what he suspected was really in there. Not whiskey, not a cocktail, ginger ale. He said it flat out, this whole thing, the droopy eyes, the tilt, the king of cool sliding off his chair. The whole act had to be a put-on. It's ginger ale. Now, think about what he just did. For 10 years, this entire show ran on the idea that Dean might be 3 drinks past the horizon. That was the joke behind every other joke. And here comes a man who can sound like anybody, and he uses that gift not to tell a joke, but to blow the whistle on the biggest running gag on television. He looked at the emperor and said very quietly, "Nice costume." And Dean loved him for it, because the only man allowed to give away the magician's secret is a fellow good enough to be a magician himself. Then Rich Little went to work on the rest of the country, and this is where the gift really paid off. He told the room that the guest of honor had more fans than she knew, important fans, powerful fans, out in Washington, and that they'd asked him to pass along a few messages. And then he simply became them, one after another, the rumbling voice of a Secretary of State.
And here's one from Henry Kissinger.
Harry. My wife, Nancy, and I watch your show every Monday night. I must say that we find it very funny.
A certain senator from Massachusetts, all pauses in family.
Here's one from Teddy Kennedy. Valerie, all of us Kennedys want to, of course, send you the very best. And each week our entire family tunes into the Roadie Show. And if you add a couple of Catholic families on the block, well, that's enough to keep anyone in the top 10 for the next 50 years.
And finally, the president himself, with that careful, cautious delivery we all knew from the evening news.
Here's a message from President Ford. Now, I'm not too sure how big a fan he is. President Ford.
And my fellow Americans, I'd like you to know that Congress introduced a bill to congratulate Valerie Harper on being Woman of the Hour. I also want you to know that I vetoed it.
And that's the beauty of an impression done right. He never had to announce that a joke about a politician was coming. He just put on the man's voice, said something perfectly ordinary in it, and lets you finish the rest. Your own memory of that famous fellow did the work for him. It's the laziest-looking hard work in show business. A man standing almost still, barely moving, quietly filling the stage with a dozen people who aren't even there. Keep that in mind, the man who could fill a room with voices. Because the next fellow we're about to meet had only one. Soft, flat, apologetic. The most unremarkable voice you ever heard, and it turned out to be the one that finally broke Dean Martin completely.
You're sure you worked with Jerry, huh?
Yeah. But our stuff wasn't this funny, I'll tell you that.
The toupee in the cheese dip. Here it is. The one I told you about at the top. The funniest moment in the whole run, and I'd bet most of you have never even heard of the man who pulled it off. Because he didn't tell jokes the way the others did. He didn't tell jokes at all, really. He just talked, quietly, like the most reasonable man on earth explaining a small problem to you. And it nearly killed Dean Martin. His name was Bob Newhart, and his whole act was that he was the calmest person in any room. No loud lines, no big faces, just a soft voice and a long pause. And somehow that pause was funnier than anybody else's punchline. Picture the most patient man you ever met, the kind who would explain his trouble to a customer service desk without once raising his voice, even as the whole thing falls apart around him. That's the character. And the trouble he's explaining is a toupee. Here's the setup, and stay with me because it builds like a snowball rolling downhill. He walks up to a department store complaint desk. He'd like to return a gift, he says. His wife bought him a toupee for their anniversary. It's a delicate matter. He'd prefer a private room. And then, when the clerk asks to see it, he tells him very calmly that it's already on his head, under the hat.
My wife bought me a toupee for our anniversary, and I'd like to return it.
Well, do you have it with you, sir?
It's under the hat, yes.
And from there, the man just keeps talking the way a polite fellow does, and every quiet sentence is worse than the one before. People laugh at him on the street, he confesses, as he walks toward them. The clerk tries to be kind and tells him it makes him look years younger, and the man agrees and then explains that people still laugh.
People on the street, they start laughing at me as I come towards them, you know.
Well, it certainly makes you look years younger.
Well, thank you very much, sir, but see, they still laugh.
And then comes the part that does it. The part that put Dean on the desk. He went to a party, he says, and he bent down to put a little cheese dip on a cracker.
And I bent down to put some cheese dip on this cracker, and it toupee fell into the cheese dip. And everyone quit having cheese dip.
And the toupee slid right off his head and landed in the cheese dip. And here's the line that made the whole studio come apart after that, he says. Nobody at the party wanted any more of the cheese dip. The poor hostess started to cry. They spent the better part of an hour trying to fish the thing out of the bowl. Now, I want you to understand what's happening to Dean while this is going on. He is not performing anymore. He has stopped being the host. He's got his arms on the desk and his head is going down, and he is gone, laughing the way you laugh at a wedding when you know you shouldn't, the kind that hurts your ribs and you can't stop. At one point, he actually says out loud that the stuff he used to do with his old partner was never this funny. That's not a script. That's a man waving the white flag. And Newhart, this is the genius of it. Newhart never breaks. He keeps going, calm as ever. He took the toupee home, he says, and put it in the washer with the little window on the front. And now the kids like to sit and watch it go around and around. And they're upset he's returning it. He'd like a cheaper one, just for the kids to watch. The salesman mentions the toupee is guaranteed to stay on, even in a hurricane. And the man gently points out that he's from Iowa, where they don't get many hurricanes.
We're from Iowa, and you know we really don't get that many hurricanes. See, mainly I want it to stay on when I go down for the cheese dip.
Mostly, he says, he just wanted it to stay on when he leaned down for the cheese. You will not find a better example of why quiet beats loud. Every other person on this list walks up swinging. Newhart walks up whispering. And he's the one who knocked the champ out cold. No insults, no shouting. Just a sad little man and a hairpiece and a bowl of cheese dip told so patiently that the coolest man on television could not stay in his chair. Remember that cheese dip, by the way. It's going to come back later in a way you won't see coming. The best rooms always rhyme with themselves.
Now, would you want a full exchange on this?
Well, I'd like a straight man who didn't laugh.
Why the cool finally cracked. Let's catch our breath for a minute, because it's worth asking the question out loud. Why did this man break? Bing Crosby couldn't get a rise out of him. Frank couldn't. He sat through 1,000 insults from the sharpest tongues in the business without blinking. So what was it about a toupee and a bowl of cheese that put him on the desk? I think it comes down to 3 things, and once you see them, you'll start spotting them in every clip. The first is that drink. I told you it was the engine, and here's why.
What? About the drinking and all the jokes and so forth. You know, everybody's made the jokes for years. I've been guilty of making the jokes, and it's, you don't drink that much, do you?
What do you mean?
It's a prop more than anything.
Dean spent every show pretending to be loose, pretending the floor was tilting, pretending he might lose it at any second. So when he actually did lose it, the audience didn't see an act. They saw the act fall away. They saw the real man underneath, the one who was just as helpless as the rest of us against a good joke.
Could I use your phone?
Oh, for heaven's sake, yeah.
Honey, listen, you want to call the Hennessy's and ask them to look and see if there's a price tag in the bottom of the dish?
There's nothing more lovable than watching a cool customer turn into a kid. The second thing is the democracy of it. At that table, everybody got it in the neck. The governor, the champ, the ball player, and Dean, too.
Jimmy Stewart, one of our great stars. And James Stewart, I'd love you. We'd ask you to stand, but we know the movement could make you ill. Jimmy Stewart has been a great star for so many years. General Omar Bradley, all our great stars. Governor Ronald Reagan, who's going to retire after so many years of good service. And Governor, I say from my heart, I'm fed up with you.
Nobody was protected. And when nobody's protected, nobody's a victim. They're all just players in the same game. That's why it never feels cruel. It feels like a family that loves each other enough to tease each other rotten. And the third thing is the surprise of the source. The biggest laughs almost never came from the loudest comedian. They came from the man who wasn't supposed to be funny. The man who could be anybody. The quiet fellow from Iowa. The fighter. The straight face does 90% of the work because your brain relaxes around a serious man. And that's exactly when the joke gets through your guard. So if you ever go back and watch these old shows again, and I hope you do, watch Dean instead of the speaker. Watch the moment the smile stops being a performance and starts being real. That's the moment the whole thing was built for. Now let me show you the man they called the meanest sweetheart in show business.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've had your rabies shots because here he comes, Mr. Don Rickles.
Bob Hope, as you all know, he's in the back, standing there with 3 soldiers and an American flag saying, "Find another war."
The Beast of Beverly Hills. If Bob Newhart was the quietest man at the table, this next fellow was the loudest, the fastest, and the most fearless. They introduced him as the Beast of Beverly Hills. His name was Don Rickles, and he had exactly one setting.
The Beast of Beverly Hills, Mr. Don Rickles.
Throttle, straight at everybody. No survivors. Now you have to understand what Rickles was, because there has never been anybody quite like him. Most comedians work hard to make you like them. Rickles worked hard to insult you, and somehow you loved him more for it. He'd walk into a room, find the most powerful, most respected person in it, and tear into them like they owed him money.
And I'm just
And the strange magic of it was that being insulted by Don Rickles felt like a badge of honor. If he ignored you, that's when you should have worried. So he comes out to do his bit, and right away you can feel the room brace, because everybody at that table knows it's coming for them. He doesn't pick one target. He can't. He goes down the line like a man mowing a point of him. And then he gets to Bob Hope, and he gives us one of the great pictures in the history of the show. He paints Bob, the great patriot, the man who entertained the troops in every war we ever had, as a fellow who's enjoyed it all a little too much. He describes Bob standing in the back with a flag and a couple of soldiers, practically begging for the next conflict so he's got somewhere to perform. "Find another war," he has him saying, and the room roars, because every single person there knows Bob loves Bob, and knows there's just enough truth in it to sting. That's the Rickles formula, if you want to call it that. He took the thing everybody admired most about a person and turned it 90 degrees until it became the joke. The patriot becomes a man who likes war a little too much. The beloved star becomes a cheapskate. He never went after a weakness. He went after the strength, which is a far braver thing to do, and far funnier. And here's what I love about watching Dean during a Rickles run. Dean isn't worried. Dean is delighted. He knows he's going to get hit, and he's leaning back, waiting for it, like a man waiting for his favorite song to come on. because that's the trust at the center of all this. You only let a man insult you like that if you know deep down that he means the opposite. Rickles roasted the people he respected, and everybody in that room knew it.
We've made it either being great, our good looks, personality, or connections, or some type of influence, but you are living proof that you don't need nothing to make it.
The champ tells the truth. Now for the heavyweight champion of the world.
Now it's time for the KO punch. Here's our man of the hour, the heavyweight champion of the world, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Muhammad Ali.
And I'll be honest with you, this one is my personal favorite. And I think a lot of you will feel the same, because there is something about watching the greatest fighter alive walk up to a microphone and turn out to be funny that just lands different. Muhammad Ali was the most famous man on the planet at the time. You all remember him. The fastest hands, the fastest mouth, the fellow who told you he was the greatest until you had no choice but to agree. We knew him in the ring. We knew him on the talk shows, running circles around every host who tried to keep up. What folks forget is how funny he was when he wasn't even trying to be. So he comes out, and the first thing he does is look around at this dais full of professional comedians, and he tells them the truth as he sees it. He's heard of fighters throwing a fight, he says. He's seen plenty of that. But this is the first time he's ever seen anybody throw a roast.
I've heard of guys throwing fights. I'm sure you all have heard about guys that throw fights. But this is the first time that I've seen anybody throw a roast.
In one sentence, the champ has told every comedian in the room they're losing. And he's right, and they know it, and they love it. Then he gets to a couple of the old fighters in the crowd, men he'd actually faced, and he tells them their jokes tonight nearly put him to sleep the same way his punches once did.
And Floyd Patterson, you know when I fought you, man, I almost put you to sleep. And with that stuff you talking tonight, you almost put me to sleep.
It's a beautiful thing, because only Ali could say it. Anybody else, and it's a brag. From him, it's just a man reporting the news. But the best part is what he does to Dean. He looks at Dean Martin, this man with the giant television show, this world figure, handsome, beloved on the air every single week, and he marvels at how little the man seems to care about any of it. He's seen Dean show up looking like he just rolled out of bed, not bothered, not sweating, not trying.
You great. You are really great. I mean, you come here high and you still can make it look good. It don't seem like a man would have a big television show like this.
And then, Ali lands it. He tells Dean that most people need something to make it in this world. Talent, or looks, or charm, or the right friends. And then, pointing at the most effortless star in America, he says Dean is living proof that you don't need any of it to make it. Now think about that. The hardest working man on earth, a fellow who trained until he dropped, looking at the most relaxed man on earth and gently accusing him of getting everything for free. It's a perfect joke because there's love in it, and there's truth in it, and only the champ could have thrown that particular punch. Dean takes it like a champion himself, grinning. Hands up, no defense. When Muhammad Ali tells you you're coasting, you don't argue. You just enjoy being roasted by the greatest of all time.
But when I first came to Hollywood, it was Bob who discovered me. I was working at a kennel. Testing flea collars.
The lady from the kennel. We've had a future president, a quiet genius, the meanest sweetheart in the business, and the champ. Now, let's bring in one of the funniest women who ever lived, because she could trade punches with any man at that table and usually win. Phyllis Diller. If you don't remember her, picture a woman who decided that the best defense in the world was to insult herself before anybody else got the chance. Wild hair, a laugh like a machine gun, and an act built entirely out of making fun of her own looks, her own marriage, her own cooking. She turned self-deprecation into an art form years before anyone had a name for it. And on a dais full of sharks, she was completely fearless. Because what could you possibly say about her that she hadn't already said about herself louder 10 seconds earlier? So she goes after Bob Hope, who gave her some of her biggest breaks. And she does it the only way she knows how, by dragging herself into the joke right alongside him. She thanks Bob for everything he did for her career. She says he's the reason she could afford her facelift.
I owe a lot to Bob Hope. It was Bob Hope who made it possible for me to have my facelift. He sold my old nose to Carl Malden.
And then she tells you what happened to the old nose, the one she traded in. Bob sold it, she says, to another famous fellow with a memorable profile. You picture it, and you're already laughing. Then she tells the story of how Bob discovered her. And this is the line you'll remember. Before Hollywood, before the fame, she says she was working at a kennel, testing flea collars. On herself, you assume. The way she tells it, from the dog pound to the silver screen, courtesy of Bob Hope. It's a ridiculous picture, and she sells it completely, because she's not afraid to be the punchline. She even goes after Bob as a leading man. She co-starred with him once, she says, in a love scene, and she describes his great romantic technique, the way he moved in for the kiss.
Next thing I knew, I was co-starring in a movie with Bob. What a lover. He really knows how to kiss a girl. I haven't seen movement like that with lips since I gave my dog a sticky Tootsie Roll.
And the only thing she'd ever seen move like that, she tells us, was her dog, the time she gave it a sticky piece of candy. She has compared the great Bob Hope in front of the whole country to a dog working a caramel out of its teeth. And the room is gone. And then she lands the plane with one perfect word. She turns to Bob, sweet as can be, and thanks him for making her the woman she is today.
Now, I'm not saying the picture was bad, but the premiere was held at a photomat. Bob, darling, you made me what I am today. Depressed.
The room waits for the warm finish, and the warm finish is one word long. Depressed. That's it. That's the whole bit. Build him up, build herself down, and finish on a single word that pulls the floor out. The toughest thing in comedy is to make hurting yourself look like a gift to everybody else. Phyllis Diller did it better than almost anyone, and she did it with a smile.
The one I always liked was Rubber Baby on the Monkey Buckers. Rubber Bobby's on.
The most charming drunk in America. Now, we have to talk about a very specific kind of genius, because this next man had exactly one joke, and he performed it better than anybody has performed anything ever. His name was Foster Brooks, and his entire act was that he was gloriously, hopelessly, lovably drunk. Not mean drunk, not sad drunk, the friendly kind. The fellow at the end of the bar who thinks you're the most wonderful person he's ever met and would like to tell you so at great length, if only he could find the words. And the joke was that he never could find the words. He'd start a sentence, lose it halfway, double back, try again, and arrive somewhere completely different from where he started. Here's the thing you have to understand to appreciate him. It was all an act. Foster Brooks, by every account, was a sober and serious craftsman who built that character note by note, which makes what he did even more remarkable because slurring on purpose at exactly the right speed, landing on exactly the wrong word that is harder than it looks. Anybody can mumble. It takes a real artist to mumble musically. They bring him out and introduce him as a respected speech coach, which is already the funniest possible job for him to have. And then he proceeds to prove he cannot say 3 words in a row without tripping over 2 of them.
Right now, I'd like you to meet the person who is responsible for the way Valerie acts and speaks. Her New York drama coach, Mr. Foster Brooks.
He tries to demonstrate the tongue twisters he uses to train his students.
She had a speech problem. So I tried the best possible way to straighten it out with tongue twisters.
You know the ones. The seashells by the seashore.
Tongue twisters. Tongue twisters. Like this one. She sells seas by the seashore. So showed your shore seas by the seashore. She said, well, now that was her favorite.
The rubber baby buggy bumpers. And he mangles every single one of them into a brand new shape, fully confident, never doubting himself for a second, sailing right past the wreckage of the English language without a care in the world. And that confidence is the secret of the whole thing. He never knows he's failing. He thinks he's doing wonderfully. He'll twist a simple phrase into complete nonsense and then nod, pleased with himself, like he just recited Shakespeare. The gap between how well he thinks it's going and how badly it's actually going is where all the laughter lives. Dean, of course, loved this, partly because it was a gentle ribbing of his own image. Here was the whole one too many idea that Dean played with every week, turned up to its absolute peak by a man who'd made a science of it. Two pros working the same joke from opposite ends. One pretending the floor was tilting, the other pretending he couldn't find the floor at all. And both of them, underneath it, stone cold sober, and timing every second like a Swiss watch.
Around town, Joe makes love like he played for the Rams. 2 minutes of action and he's out of the game.
The football trophies. Let's get into some trouble now. Nothing too rough, this was network television after all, but a little spicy the way these rooms got when the right person had the microphone and a good story to tell. The right person this time was Angie Dickinson, a genuine movie star, beautiful, sharp, and not the least bit shy. And she'd come to the dais with a story about a date, not just any date, a date with the most famous bachelor in American sports, the golden-armed quarterback every man in the country wanted to be, and every fellow at that table envied. I won't say his name, but he wore the number 12, and he could throw a football through a brick wall. So Angie sets it up beautifully. She tells the crowd she lived out the dream of countless American women. She dated the quarterback. Once. Well, she corrects herself, twice.
I dated Joe Namath once. I actually did. We had one date. Actually, it was 2 dates. My first and my last.
Her first date with him and her last. And right away, you know you're in for something good, because a woman doesn't open a story that way unless the ending is worth it. Then she walks you through the evening. The quarterback had a brand new house. He invited her up to see it. He lowered the lights. He put on some soft music. The stage is set, fellas. You know exactly where this is heading.
And he lowered the lights and turned on some soft music, and then he showed me some pornographic x-rays of his knees.
And then, instead of romance, he starts showing her his things. And his things are not what you'd hope. First, he shows her some medical pictures of his famous bad knees, which, let me tell you, is not the move. Then he puts on game film, football film. And she sits there on this so-called romantic evening, watching a room full of large men in helmets congratulate each other in the way large men do. And then comes the famous invitation. He asks her to come upstairs. He'd like to show her his trophies.
Finally, Joe made his move. He said, Angie, come upstairs. I'd like to show you my football trophies. I was so surprised he showed them to me.
And the room is already laughing because we all know there are no trophies. And Angie knows there are no trophies. And the look on her face tells you the whole story. But she saves the best for the very end. And it's a clean, perfect shot at the great athlete's, let's say, performance. She'd heard from the ladies around town, she says, that the quarterback made love exactly the way he played the game. 2 minutes of action, and then he's out for the rest of the day. Now that is how you roast a sports hero. Not by saying he's bad at football, by using the football against him. She took the man's greatest glory and turned it into the joke, which, if you've been paying attention, is the move that never misses.
Look at Diller. I want you to look at Diller over there. Look at the hair. Do you believe it? She looks like her head fell in the cheese dip.
The last word belongs to a lady. We're near the end now, and I've saved this one for the close on purpose because it ties a little bow on everything, including that cheese dip I told you to remember. Her name was Totie Fields. She was small, she was loud, she was quick as a whip, and she gave Dean Martin as good as she got, which is saying something. Most guests played defense around Dean. Totie played offense. She walked up to that podium like she owned it and went straight at the host.
You don't remember me, but I was your first wife.
And the thing she went after was the drink. Of course it was. The drink was the biggest target in the room, and everybody took a swing at it. But Totie's swing was the cleanest of the night. She talked about how much the man liked his cocktails. How much.
They talk about you drinking. You drink so damn much that this guy, I want you to know, he quit AA and joined AAA so they could tow him away from the bar.
And then she told us about a fellow she knew who drank so much that he gave up on one famous program for people trying to quit the one with the meetings and signed up instead with the one that comes to tow your car, so they could haul him home from the bar at the end of the night. It's a small, perfect joke, and it works because it's built on the one thing the whole audience already knew about Dean. You don't have to explain the setup. The setup is the man sitting right there with the glass in his hand. And then here's the bow. Because earlier in the evening, Totie looked across the table at Phyllis Diller, our flea-collar friend from the kennel, and she took a shot at Phyllis's wild hairdo.
Animal! Get a seat tonight in my dressing room before the show. Banging on my door, banging on my door. I had to let him out.
And she said it looked like Phyllis had stuck her head in a bowl of cheese dip. Now, we just spent the middle of this whole story on a man whose toupee fell into a bowl of cheese dip and made Dean lose his mind. And here later that same night, another comic reaches for the exact same picture without even planning it. That's not a coincidence. That's a room so loose, so alive, so in tune with itself, that the jokes started rhyming on their own. The cheese dip became a thread running through the night, and nobody wrote it that way. It just happened the way the best nights do, when a room full of funny people stop performing and start playing. That's the magic you can't fake, and it's the reason these old tapes still play half a century later. It wasn't a show, it was a party that happened to have cameras in it. The night the King of Cool lost it. So, let's add it all up. For 10 years, Dean Martin sat at the head of the loosest table in television, with a drink in his hand and a look on his face that said nothing on earth could surprise him. And one by one, they surprised him anyway. A future president buried a beloved patriot with 3 quiet words. The heavyweight champion of the world accused him lovingly of getting everything for free. A wild-haired woman turned her own life into a punchline and never once flinched. A pretend drunk built a masterpiece out of falling apart. A movie star roasted a quarterback with his own game film. And a soft-spoken man from Iowa holding a toupee never told a single joke and still put the coolest man in America face down on his desk. Here's what I think it all means, and then I'll let you go. We remember Dean Martin as the man who was never rattled. But the moments we love best, the ones we keep coming back to, are the moments he was rattled. The cool cracking, the act falling away. The most unflappable man in the room turning for just a second into a kid at a slumber party who can't stop laughing. That's not a weakness. That's the whole prize. Because a man who can laugh like that helplessly in front of the whole country is a man who was having a wonderful time. And so were we. So now I'm going to leave it with you, because you were there, or you wish you'd been, and either way, you've got an opinion. Here's my question, and I want you to settle it in the comments below. Who really got Dean the worst? Was it the quiet man with the toupee and the cheese dip? Or was it the impressionist who told the whole country Dean's glass was really full of ginger ale? And while you're at it, tell me the one I left out, because a room that loose had 100 more of these, and I want to know which one still makes you laugh. Pour yourself one more. Thanks for sitting with me. And remember, the coolest man in any room is usually just one good joke away from losing it completely.